Hello, starting today with Saturn through houses, and I'm going to just do this generic video. The first one will be all about what is Saturn really all about. So Saturn is one of the most important planets in Vedic astrology, in the sense that it deals at our karma. So wherever Saturn is, it's basically where we're paying our karma to the world in our natal chart. Obviously, do always bear in mind that despite the fact that you're born with a certain placements, but actually every dashas are planetary periods which are very unique to Vedic astrology. Your chart changes, even though the underlying thing is your D1 or your natal chart, but really is on top of it during those years that that particular planet is ruling your life. You're doing more, you can read your chart from there, so this could change according to that. But this, obviously we know that the natal chart is literally the flavor of what we are. But as I'm sure we all see that we definitely change every year when we are younger, and every decade or so we change dramatically as well as we work through our karmas. And some karmas, we work through and basically it's done, so it doesn't mean that we're going to be repeating those issues again and again. This is one of the most important things as well to know, is that for Saturn is very strong in the 7th house, because it's planet of community, other people, marriage, commitment. Therefore, if you have a difficult issues, difficult Saturn in your chart, it's really good to work on. I mean, if you have got a strong Venus, then that's fine. And also if you've got strong Jupiter, that's very good too. But Venus and Saturn, really, they rule all the most important houses in the chart, which is 2nd house and 7th house of Venus, and 10th and 11th house of the natural zodiac are ruled by Saturn. So Saturn for us is the planet, we always look at it from Aries ascendant. It rules 10th house of career, karma and status, and 11th house, which is house of gains, and house of elder sibling. So it's a wealth and work. For Venus is 2nd house of family, savings, values, self-love, and 7th house of relationships and working with the others. So when they get together, this is how relationships are built, basically, because if you've got a good Venus and good Saturn, you really work at it. And so if you're finding that in your chart, your Saturn is very strong and it holds you back, or it's very weak, when it's very weak, like a debilitated Saturn, it's really, particularly in the 1st or 7th house, it can be quite difficult, because the person only ever sees the lack. They can give up on things before even start it. Therefore, it's quite good to work on Saturn. Saturn is literally hard work, putting your back into it and getting results. And the moment you do it with Saturn never ever denies you anything, but it wants you to deliver, and it wants you to be consistent and persistent. So let's go through some of the things to do with Saturn. Saturn is monotony. It's routine. Responsibility is our duty, commitment, fear, worry, seriousness, actually having lack, feeling the lack for anything. Maturity, reliability is humanitarian. It's unhappiness, discipline. It likes fairness, really, in everything. Wherever it sits in our chart, that part of our life, we're always very hard on ourselves. And it's rules it's dry and it's stressful. It rules kind of laws of the land. Sometimes even the unspoken laws will be to do with Saturn. It's like planet of humbleness and integrity, really. It's rules and regulations. It's respected, respect and respecting others, basically. It's always seeing what is not done. So you could have a list, and person who's got a good Venus, they think, okay, I had 10 things on my list. I did 2. Excellent. I now deserve a cup of tea. And they go and treat themselves, and there's no guilt attached. Well, it's very different for Saturn. Saturn is always guilt-driven. So therefore, it's like, even if they did 2 jobs and they were massively busy and there were big jobs to do in a day, they is still hard on themselves that they didn't do the other 8. So their view of life is very much like glass half empty. But they are loyal, hardworking. As I said, they love a routine. They like everything to be just so. Steadfast. They that term, talk the talk, walk the walk. They probably even don't even talk, but they certainly walk the walk, because they're not really having Saturn on your first house. It kind of limits everything. It can, wherever it's sitting, it kind of contracts that. It also rules elderly people, sick or disabled people. It's longevity. It's also death, delays, isolation, community, and above everything else is service. So these are all the indications of Saturn. So what we do now, we'll go through and do it through the houses. Saturn is friendly with Venus, very good friends with Venus, and also with Mercury. And it also does pretty well with K2, but it's definitely not friendly with the Sun or the Moon, or even Mars, although Mars is neutral with Saturn. And Rahu as well. Rahu, Saturn are not good together either. So this is how you can see. So you can see that Saturn is going to do really well in own sign, rules Capricorn, and rules Motricona sign, which is like the head office sign. It's very strong. Is in the 11th house of the natural zodiac, which is house of kind of groups, networks, likes to be with other people and actually contributing to everything. And it's exalted in Libra and debilitated in Mars. Exalted in the sign of other people, marriage, committing, working with other people, and diplomacy. But sign of Aries, which is all about me, myself, and I, is not happy there, because obviously it's a sign of me being singular, and also sign of Mars, which is an enemy to it considers Mars as an enemy. And so we just want to kind of like, this is one of those things that when you have a weak Saturn in your chart, you really it's very hard to get a grip of life, and things for people will be seriously delayed, and people, like mothers and fathers, could start worrying about the child because they just feel as though they are not really grasping things in life and solidifying anything. And also it can make the child very worryful as well. So I find that when Saturn is in your first house, in your 7th house, it's your Atmakarka, or is sitting with your ascendant lord, the child, everything for the child will be delayed. They'll be more stressed than normal. They'll be very dutiful. They always worry. They have this fear. So as a mother, it's very important to just like have compassion for them, because these children are real humanitarian. If they are really looked after and nurtured, so they can actually there's that trust thing going on, then you do well and they do well too. And so don't literally, be aware that they are not sometimes, it could be that, I'm not saying this every person, it depends on the chart, but don't they feel the pain of anything, because obviously they feel as though if they didn't do very well in a test, or you know, they didn't do a job to the way their parents wanted to, they carry this terrible guilt, and they feel as though they let you and the family down, so they already suffer with a lot of guilt anyway. So it's really good when we are kind of, even with, if you have a partner who has like, or you know, children, siblings, friends and everything else, we just got to realize, you know, that's where they're coming from. It's really, really important. So anyway, let's talk about the Saturn through signs, through houses. Thank you. Saturn has special aspects. It's obviously where it's sitting. It always, like all other planet aspects, 7 houses away. It also has special aspects, which is 3rd house and 10 houses away. The house that it's actually 3 houses away, but you always count so if it was in the 1st house, so you count 1st, 2nd, 3rd. So 3rd house will be where you'll be putting the effort in. So 3rd house is away from where it's sitting, and then 10 houses away from it, which is where you're paying karma to the world for from Saturn's viewpoint. So it's not necessarily you know, for some people who've got like Saturn in the 5th house, is, you know, 10 houses from that is not going to be necessarily your work one, but nonetheless though, it's something that you're paying karma on the world too. Okay, let's make a start on this. Saturn in 11th house. So this is obviously a karma house. It's the original house of Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn anyway. And it's also an upachaya house, which means it gets better with time. And I'm just going to go through indications. So this is obviously 2nd house is from your 10th house. So it's the money that you gain, your gains from your work, your efforts that you put into the world, working through your karmas, your career and status. This is what it gives you. It's your gains, your wealth, your desires, your wishes, your elder sibling, your groups of friends, your networks, which then help you create that wealth. And so it's it also rules all the big organizations, humanitarian sign, etc. And Aquarius obviously is ruled by Saturn, but in the natural zodiac it's also co-ruled by Rahu as well. So you can suddenly gain, the gains can be pretty good depending on the condition of Saturn. Obviously this is going to be quite comfortable for Saturn because it rules the natural 11th house of the zodiac. And from there it's going to be aspect in your 1st house, your 5th house and your 8th house. And we know that wherever Saturn is, that house requires patience. It's going to grow, it's going to get better. And there's going to be a level of stress about it too, that kind of thing. I have to say, Saturn in 11th house is a lot more liberal and freedom thinking than it is in Capricorn. So just wanted to put it out there. So, you know, whereas Capricorn, if you've got any planets in Capricorn, you're going to just work really hard. You're going to be very conscientious of that. This is going to be like much more easier going, much more liberal, freedom-loving Saturn. So it's a nicer side of Saturn, more soft. So, and it's also, Saturn is realistic. So it's going to be realistic about all kinds of things. You know, like Jupiter is idealistic. Saturn is a realist. Absolutely, it's humble. So you know that obviously there's going to be a coolness about the elder sibling. So, you know, elder sibling could be like the relationship between the two could be quite cool, or there could be a lack of, maybe there isn't one. And they probably keep their friends and their groups and networks for a long time, because Saturn, particularly in good dignity, I mean, obviously we're talking about Saturn with no conjunctions, no aspects, but Saturn, generally speaking, is going to be quite committed to people anyway, and is quite a faithful, humble integrity. It has integrity, particularly if it's in good condition. So it's going to be very loyal to his friends. The friends are going to be long-term friends. They are not into like chit-chatting, you know, just opportunistic friends as such, unless obviously Rahu has something to do with it. So they are going to be like they have groups of friends, and they if they do things together, they're always going to be conscientious of what they do. They could also have some secret groups and things that they meet, because this aspect in the 8th house, secret societies, that kind of thing. They don't mind that, but their friends will help them gain. They sort of help each other with taxes. This form of insurance, this advisor is good. They kind of quite into looking after each other as such. And remember that the Saturn ruling the 11th house too. It's normal. It's obviously natural 11th house of the zodiac is a fixed sign, so they can actually attain and retain all the gains quite well. So it's got nice connotations to it. So obviously this person is going to be realistic person, because the 3rd aspect of Saturn is going to be because there's going to be a delay in the way that actually their gains come in, their wealth comes in, because it's all 11th house. 11th house is also banking too, so there could be some form of thing going on with the if it's to do with your 10th house, so it could be something that you're working in banking or a big organization. And so the person is quite realistic about investments, quite, forward thinking in terms of knowing that the investments are going to be long term. Themselves are quite serious, quite mature. They're quite Saturnian, because obviously Saturn is putting a lot of effort into the person, just develop himself slowly over time. They could be quite patient, quite wise sort of person, like a wise head on them. These sort of souls that you feel as though they're knowing about things without being, they're humble. They're not show offy or anything like that. Quite realistic, and they also can, in a sense, also limit themselves. How strange. I'm talking about Saturn, and now there's a crow outside my window. Saturn. They kind of know long term. Everything is long term. I have to put effort in now, because long term it will pay off. They also, they could be like, they're quite serious about their education. They're serious about the education of their children, and quite serious about investments, that kind of thing, long term anyway. There could be a delay in them having children, and delay in, obviously, in the investment that they've made to pay off long term. But all is good in a sense, because they know that everything is like, I'm investing in my future, I'm investing in my children, I'm investing in their future. Everything that they do is quite, they do it with research, because it's aspect in the 8th house. And because it's aspect in the 8th house, it delays everything to do, slows down things to do with the 8th house. So if they were going to get like an inheritance, that'd be slowed. If there's a tax bill coming in, it's slowed down. If there's an insurance payment, they have to wait a bit longer than normal people to get that payout. But what it does, it also helps their longevity. If they have they do the research and get the right information for their investments, their friends will help them too. And it's just the natural ups and downs and the suddenness of the 8th house is slowed down because of Saturn's aspect to it. So they do everything that they do it with a level of conscious awareness, because they've done their homework. They're not going to just they know they trust their friends. There's a trust. There is this a code between them, that they look after each other as such. Right. Let's have a look at the ascendants now. For Aries ascendant, this is going to be your 10th and 11th house ruler in the 11th house. So nice and strong. It's aspect in the 1st house, so it's going to create a really nice Dhan yoga. And not Dhan yoga because it's aspect in the 5th house too. And this is going to get better with time, because 10th and 11th house, they are upachaya houses. They get better and better as time goes by. We kind of get wise. We pay off a little bit of our karmas before the time they mature. So it's nice. And so the person is serious, patient. They know that there are certain things they can't have, and they're okay with it. They are realistic about life. And they're obviously aspecting the 5th house. There's like investments will be a little bit difficult for these people, because obviously it's aspecting an unfriendly sign. So there's going to be like a relationship with children, or even, you know, if they are teaching something, students can be a little bit like formal. It's not like fun, because, you know, Saturn is the planet of community. Let's all work together. Let's all share the love and everything. But, you know, Leo and the Sun are different. It's all about self, me. So there is this ego thing going on, and that ego could be also because they could be their education and gaining things. They want to have this education. This is difficult for them, but they want to do it because of the gains from that as well. So there's a level of that going on too, and also it's aspecting what would be the 5th house. 5th house is heart, and so they know that they need to be a bit more humble in order to have love in their life and romance and everything. So that kind of thing will be good for them, because what it does elevates their 5th house. So but they want to have, you know, they want to be dating and be with somebody, because romance is important to them, because it's obviously aspect in that house, and they love children. So they're a bit shy about romantic ventures and things like that, but once they relax and go with it, everything is absolutely fine. And through their education that they learn, that they get really good gains. And obviously aspects the 8th house of the natural zodiac, which is Scorpio. So elevates what it does, kind of slows down the difficulties of the 8th house because of Saturn. So this is quite nice. Nice one. You just need to just be aware of, like, you know, I think because this 5th house is also sports, so they probably will do well to do group activities and sports like volleyball, basketball, things like that, to actually keep their heart, because it's also a malefic aspect in the 5th house, to keep their heart cardiovascular thing going. Okay, for Taurus ascendant. Taurus ascendant 11th house will be Saturn in a neutral sign, which is Pisces. And for them, obviously, Saturn is going to be, this is the natural 12th house of the zodiac. So 11th house gains for, you know, groups of friends and things for them. They could have really nice spiritual friends. They could have some foreign friends, but they could also lose friends over time, just because it's 11th house, and some of the friends could be like secret enemies to them. But they lose them eventually anyway, because it's just a karmic thing they have to go through and then release. And then their 5th house is natural 6th house of the zodiac, Virgo. So you know that there might be some obstacles about having children. There might be, once they have a child, there'll be some expenses, some debts and things like that. But generally speaking, you know, they are quite, because this is the natural 6th and 12th house of zodiac, they're quite service-oriented people. So the groups that they want to collect, it's not just to do like fun 5th house stuff with, creative things, but they also want to do something bigger for the world too. And then obviously it's aspecting the 1st house for them, Taurus. So this is, because it's natural 2nd house of the zodiac, you know that it's going to be like Saturn is going to be delaying money for them. Money will come a bit later. That makes them quite hardworking too, because naturally hardworking people, these Taurians. And this is also like 9th house and 11th house ruler. When it goes into the 11th house, creates nice done yogas for them, you know, 9th house ruler in the 11th house ruler aspect in the 1st house, and then also 11th house ruler, 9th house ruler aspect in the 5th house. Fantastic for money. And also It's a 10 house ruler aspect in the first house too, so multiple success ones for them, and also aspects the 8th house for them, so that's also going to be good in terms of like they could be quite interested in things to do spiritual and really good. It wants them to develop very good belief system, very good life, University of Life information too. They probably were going to be really good at actually doing the self-help stuff, because this is the 8th house now becoming the 9th house of natural. So these people are quite philosophical, quite they love history, they love all, you know, belief system for them. So they want to have the same belief systems as their friends. That will be very key to their success. And then for Gemini ascendant, this is 8th and 9th house ruler. When it goes in the 11th house, Saturn is going to be debilitated for them. So it goes to show that there's going to be sudden changes in the groups of friends. Also, it's going to be like they could gain things from their dad, but it all kind of depends on the Mars condition, really. So because it's a 9th house ruler in the 11th house, but it's debilitated. So as they probably think they're going to gain quite a lot through father, but they probably don't. And also, you know, when Saturn is debilitated, they could feel like they're not as good as some of their friends. Oh, they've got problems again with the internet. I don't do this, so I'm going to come back to this. Okay, I've had to go a different route about recording. Again, having this problem. Mercury retrograde is really, really playing on me. And I've done so many hours of recordings. And anyway, let's share the screen and continue with Gemini ascendant. So yeah, for you guys, Saturn in the 11th house will be debilitated. I'm sorry if I'm actually going over things, but it's just I have had so many hours of doing this, so I'm just going to let it be. Anyway, Saturn from there is aspecting own sign, which is Capricorn. So it's protecting things to do with the 8th house, and also it's aspecting where it's exalted too. However, it's also a Saturn that's debilitated. Looking at this, so be very careful. You know, don't try and beat the system or do something that's like, you know, against the law or anything like that, because obviously this is now a sign of the government, and if you're doing anything that is like not correct, there's a chances of having issues, which will then obviously impact yourself and your investments and everything. So excuse me, just be very cautious of that. But clearly, you know, with time this is going to get better. Gemini being kind of Mercury signs are quite young signs, so it does you good to just like be patient and allow Saturn, you know, gain the knowledge and the information, and then go that. But you know, this is obviously going to be there could be some breakage in your education. There could be some losses due to you know, having children, losses through friends, things like that. But just keep out the fact that Saturn wants you to work on yourself and be realistic, and don't rush things. Be patient, be humble, and just wants you to have a more serious look at investments. How, you know, am I doing the right thing? Is this going to create some losses for me? Because now it's 8th house ruler is aspecting that. And in time, when you will learn the lessons of that, you know, not to go for investments just because, you know, because your friends could not necessarily give you the correct advice, because this is now Saturn in debilitation, you know, unfriendly sign. So just be cautious, and in time things will just get better. So I would just probably say, you know, it's very important to do the right thing with investments, with taxes, with insurances. Make sure all of those things are in place and you do the right thing by everything. Maybe don't do any investments or anything like that till a bit later. If you're going to invest any money, educate yourself on it first and then do it. Then with time, things will just improve because it's an Upachaya house. Then for Cancer ascendant, let me just see. Yes. Just had to check it was doing the right thing. For Cancer ascendant, this is going to be like your 7th and 8th house ruler. It's going to be going into the 11th house, which is a friendly sign, is Taurus. So Saturn ruling the 7th and 8th house is obviously the 8th house ruler is not going to create any issues with any yogas. So this will be the 7th house ruler aspect in the 1st house. So it's going to be a nice Raja yoga for you. It's also aspect in the 5th house, a Dhan yoga. And so it's going to be absolutely fine. So these are going to be from there. It's going to be aspect in the 8th house, protecting all things to do with the 8th house, and the chances of getting like in if your chart is also supportive of this, they can have good gains from insurance payouts or tax payouts or even inheritance, and the groups of friends that they're going to have. There could be secret society people, 8th house ruler, and there could be some, they could help each other out with taxes and insurance and all that kind of advice and research, help each other out in that sense. It's also actually 5th house ruler, so there could be like some issues having children because this 5th house now falls into Scorpio, which is 8th house natural zodiac. Or it could be that there's like they got a secret child somewhere. They could have problems having children, or there could be breaks in education, that for sure. And also the investments, they can either gain suddenly or lose suddenly. So investments will be a little bit odd, but if they are doing investment shares and stocks and things like that, they do it secretly. And then obviously from this aspect in the 1st house. Now the aspect of Saturn onto Cancer is going to be a little bit like this person could suffer from anxiety or stress. All these things to do with 5th, 11th and 8th house is going to give them anxiety. And they really need to put effort, because 3rd house story obviously is delaying things, and it's also, this is a sign that wants to do things really quickly and it can't. So it's actually Saturn's aspect on it is making the person feel quite restricted and as a result quite anxious. So but just work on it, because it's the more we control our mind, the happier our lives are. So this is almost like a lesson. It's a skill that Saturn wants you to have in order to just get more out of your life, really. So, but you can see that the gains will be slow, and also Saturn makes Taurus quite barren. But in time, it will come through, and it will come through quite well. For Leo ascendant, this is going to be Saturn rules 6th and 7th house. When it goes into the 11th house, Saturn will be in a friendly sign, will be in Gemini. This will be like quite a friendly Saturn. It likes Mercury signs, and this is the 11th house is now connected to the 3rd house of natural zodiac. So you know that they've got loads of friends. Their friends communicate with each other quite well. And even though there's a seriousness about the friends, but they have each other's back. They work together, have some interests together that really keeps them going. So, but also, obviously, they're going to have some secret enemies. Again, some enemies, not secret, that some of their friends are going to be their enemies. And these enemies are going to create issues with their gains. So because the 6th house ruler now is also connected with these yogas, it's going to, make them not as fruitful. It's going to make them a bit blemished. So I would say with these people, it's quite important to do your homework. Don't get yourself tangled up with anything that's investments and things like that. You've got to be really careful. This is the sort of person who's got to do the what you call the because obviously Saturn is not a good planet for Leo, and all of those things, they're going to find obstacles, having children, obstacles with education, or debts, or enemies, or that litigation even that could happen with that. So just be very careful, because some of those friends and some of those secret dealings, investments, can actually create massive obstacles for you. However, there's a learning to be done from there, and when you go forward, everything will be done with much more awareness, because Saturn is also making the person really think about, because the aspect in the first house, making the person not be so egotistical, make the person humble in the long run, and they can get much more out of their life. They can just deal with all things to do with education, children, investment, romance, all of that thing with much more awareness, and that will just make them a lot happier anyway, because the thing is, when Sun deals, wants to have this egotistical ways about it, when he's actually grounded and more humbled by Saturn, it just makes long-term decisions about life much better. The effort that they put there into themselves will give them fruits much easier. And obviously from there, it's going to be aspect in Leo, first house, and fifth house, which was going to be Sagittarius, and also obviously sitting in the 11th house, being the 6th and 7th house ruler. And they could also meet their spouse through their groups of friends too. And so, or they could also, the other thing they could do all these competitive sports with their friends, like football, things like that. So that could be a theme. Then for Virgo ascendants. So Virgo ascendants, for them is 5th house, 6th house ruler Saturn. Going in the 11th house will be Saturn in Cancer. So it's going to be a little bit difficult in the sense that they can be a little bit sensitive about their friends, about their gains. They don't like people to know. They could be private about that, because obviously Cancer is a little bit private. It's a natural 4th house of the zodiac. And they could also gain from their mum and gain from things overseas. But anyway, so this is not going to be very comfortable. They sometimes feel with friends they're actually walking on eggshells too. So because also this is the 6th house ruler now in the 11th house, again, there could be some competition with friends which are uncomfortable, some enemies within that, discord. They could create some form of legal issues, litigation with friends. It's also from there, obviously, it's 5th and 6th house ruler. It's aspect in the 5th house, protects 5th house stuff, Capricorn. So all things to do with romance, dating, partying, investments, for children, education, students, all of those things will be absolutely fine, because they could be an educator of younger children, teach them music or something of such. But yeah, so, but it's because it's 6th house ruler, it kind of slightly damages all those issues. And also the 8th house aspect of it is going to be on debilitation signs. So, things to do if you do sort of any form of like tax evasion, you don't do your taxes, you don't insure things properly, that you could have issues there. So just make sure that you look after things like that. It also can be more likely that, because this is Saturn things, you do things fast, you drive fast and everything, just be aware, because Saturn can't really protect that sign, because the 8th house, just because it's debilitation sign. But generally speaking, the 5th house stuff is protected. And it's also obviously aspect in the 8th house and sitting in the 11th house. But yeah, so there could be definitely some losses, secret enemies or open enemies amongst their friends. So they have to tread things with those people quite carefully. Then for Libra ascendant, this is like Yoga Karaka planet, 4th and 5th house ruler in the 11th house, unfriendly sign Leo. It does obviously aspect 5th house, protects the 5th house, and it is 5th house ruler in the 11th house, creates a really nice Raj Yoga. they have some friends which are really high status friends. You know, when they gain really well through these friends. It's also another house that's what you call very it's a fixed sign, so they can retain that quite well. And for them, eighth house is going to be like Saturn will be aspecting Taurus, so delays or the sort of like makes ups and downs and sudden changes of life a bit slower, not so harsh. But generally speaking, though, there is also this feeling with the friends that, you know, some of them are quite sort of egotistical. They have to deal with a lot of ego, and Saturn obviously is a planet that doesn't want to have any ego. So, but through the mother, they can gain land. Through the friends, they could, you know, they can sort of save taxes on properties, land, that kind of investments. In those terms of gains is quite good. And they probably this calms down the ego of Leo, because obviously, you know, this is one of the things that can be a bit detrimental for Libra ascendants. Try too much going into gains, into accolades, certification, qualifications, and that's not really good for them. But Saturn will slow this down, and actually with wisdom they can do all the investments, and that will make him so much more happy as well. And their mom could do some investments with them, which is it's nice having the backing of your mom and your family. Sorry, I think I made a mistake earlier, so I think I'm just going to just go over Scorpio. For Scorpio ascendant, this is like third and fourth house ruler in the 11th house. This is the natural sixth house of the zodiac. So actually, let's have a look at the chart. That will be so much better. Ooh, and let's do the because I haven't done this. So for Scorpio ascendant, this is going to be your third and fourth house ruler going into the 11th house, which is Saturn in a friendly sign in Virgo. But this is also the sixth house of natural zodiac. So it has got some issues with obstacles and debts and enemies, that kind of thing, litigation. But nonetheless, though, it is like third and fourth house ruler in the 11th house. So, you know, through lots of effort, you can actually achieve this. And it does get better with time, because it's got it's Upachaya house, third house, 11th house is Upachaya, and sixth house of natural zodiac is Upachaya as well. So it's really going to help with that. So now you have... you can also gain family home. Your mom can help you gain. Your siblings can help you gain too. It's from those aspects in the 8th house of the which is Gemini. So this is going to be somebody who's going to be excellent at getting information, data, do the research, do the hard work, and also what happens is it's also aspecting what would be the 5th house, Pisces. And so it's all in all, it's going to be not too bad for this for the Scorpio ascendant. Saturn is going to help them through lots of effort, effort putting into things, and just doing things slowly, because obviously Scorpio, again ruled by Mars, is going to be like impatient. Through patience and go in with the flow of life, they could really gain quite well. And that will make them really happy, and they could attain really nice home. And because also they're, Saturn is 4th house ruler, mother can have a key role in their wealth too, and second siblings, and also elder sibling. But obviously this is house of critical house. So, they could have friends who are competitive, argumentative, but they got to look at the big picture in the end. That's but the 5th house is Pisces, so they're going to have very creative children. They could go abroad for their education, or their children could go abroad for their, but just generally speaking, it does grow better with time. For Sagittarius ascendant, this is now 2nd and 3rd house ruler. When he goes in the 11th house, will be exalted in Libra. So this is an amazing Dhan Yoga, second house ruler in the 11th house. With time, these people are going to gain really, really well. They got fantastic friends. They always want to help each other out. They got each other's back, and they put a lot of effort into their friendship groups because they just, all of them get on really well. They're friends, they're big groups of friends. They are literally, they want to be harmonious. They want to work together. They want everybody to achieve. It's like share and share alike. It's also aspect in like the 8th house for them, which is Saturn aspect in Cancer. So they, changes and transformations, all those kind of things in life is going to be very difficult for these people. Just because of nature of Cancer, they emotionally can't let go of things that easily. But as they learn, this is the lesson that Saturn is going to teach. As they learn to just accept and let go with love, letting go is going to be important. Emotional attachments, things that are really can make you ill. There's no point. So you have to just be aware of that. Letting go also with love, not just letting go. That will really serve you right. And you don't want to and you also want to deal with like paperwork really quickly. Don't wait, because it's just almost like eats at your well-being. So deal with things very, very easily. And generally speaking, with time though, it's going to make the person, it's a wise sign anyway, Sagittarius. So getting the right information, working with people, all of that is going to be very, very good for them. And an exalted planet aspect in the first house, even though it delays things, it's delay for the right reasons. It's accepting and knowing that things will get better with time. Fantastic yogas here, 11th house, and this is like second house ruler aspect in the first house, another Dhan yoga too. Very good. Then for Capricorn ascendant, this is going to be like your first and second house ruler. When it goes into the 11th house, it's going to be Saturn in Scorpio, so an unfriendly sign, and it's also natural 8th house of the zodiac. So it's got like some difficulties, some secrecy behind it. And so what happens from there, Saturn is aspect in the 5th house, which is Taurus. That the family traditions is really important to them, and they also they do long-term investments, will be good for them. This is also aspect in the 8th house, which is going to be Leo. So for them, the groups, the friends that they have is going to be in secret societies. They do things that are just maybe not great. In some of the friends can be like have something about them that you can't put your finger on. They could just be careful you're not around some people who are criminals or doing criminal activities. In that sense, because this is like a fixed house. Once you get entangled with that, it's going to be difficult shaking it off. And even the 8th house, Saturn aspects the 8th house, so it could be like people who are working with some really powerful people, and there is some secrets about them. So I just think just be very careful about the friends that you choose, the groups that you hang out with, because first of all, they're this generally speaking, the 3rd house for you is, even though it's not connected to this, the friends that you normally choose can actually give you losses, because just choose everybody around you very wisely, because this even your close friends can give you like issues, because your 3rd house is natural, 12th house of the zodiac. Now your 11th house, it becomes like 8th house natural zodiac. Just be very cautious, and if anything doesn't sit right with you, don't do it. The good thing is Saturn is aspecting your 1st house, making you wise, making you very patient. Generally, you're going to just really want to do the right thing, because it's a karmic sign, your 1st house. You want to do the right thing by the people. So anything that sits wrong with you, don't do it, because the nature of your 8th house is not comfortable. And but you know, you're obviously a family oriented person, and you enjoy, you know, it's like, you know, 2nd house ruler is and 1st house ruler aspect in the 5th house. So investments, education, you know, all those sort of things are wonderful. But you know, gains and all of that sort of stuff, there could be some, you know, just really see what feels. You use your intuition, your gut feeling with things like that. And if something sounds too good to be true, don't do it. But it is with wisdom and waiting and everything else, things will be good, because also this is 2nd house ruler in the 11th house, and the 1st house is being protected by aspect. Okay, Aquarius ascendant. So we have 12th and 1st house ruler. When he goes in the 11th house, will be Saturn in Sagittarius. From there, obviously, it's aspect in the 5th house. So this is in sort of neutral house, not too bad. But this Saturn is also the 12th house ruler in the 1st house. So there are obviously some secret friendship groups there, or foreign friends that you meet, you know, whilst traveling. It could be that also some form of addiction put you in groups, and like, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous, or, you know, some form of like diets and things like that. And through them, you are getting the support that you need to get yourself better and looking after your health and well-being, and gain more education and wisdom. So, you know, this is also the 9th house of natural zodiac. So you... it's a moral sign, and Saturn is a moralistic planet. So it's just through sheer waiting and working on yourself, getting the support from the right wise people, getting in tune with your religion, your belief system, and maybe getting your father's help. Things will be absolutely fine. And this is obviously, you know, your friends could create losses for you, though. So this is what you've got to understand. When the 12th house ruler goes in, as soon as you get some gains, you could be spending them. So this is like somebody who could have some addictions to, say, you know, to spending. So as soon as they get something, or they don't look after things, and they could just create expenses through sheer not being aware of what they're doing. Well, Saturn is also going to be aspect in the 1st house, and you know that with time things will get better. It's also, you know, Saturn is 1st house ruler aspect in the 5th house, so that's really nice, done yoga. And your 8th house for you is going to be Virgo. So Saturn is going to be aspect in Virgo. So you know that if you 8th house is now connected to the 6th house of natural zodiac. So do the, you know, get the information, really use your practicality, intellectual abilities to get rid of any people who create debts, obstacles, issues for you. Get them out of the way just by being, you know, just like 8th house is letting go of things that hold you back. Get rid of those, and that, you know, those entanglements which can create digestive issues for you as well. Get rid of them, and things, you know, you then paint yourself a much healthier future, more gains, etc. And obviously this is 12th house and 8th house never really upset any of the yogas. So, but you know, this is a long-term thing, that by sheer working on yourself, you know, by 1st house ruler in the 11th house, you can actually you can create your own wealth with the help of really good friends. Also, obviously from there, Saturn is as I said, you know, aspect in the 5th house. So you could have really bright as button children who are really learned, really multi-talented kids who are really artistic, and you're probably really artistic too. So try to develop those even more, because you probably can do dancing, singing, cooking, building, gardening, you know, quite a sporty person. Very good in that sense. For Pisces ascendant, this is 11th and 12th house ruler. When he goes into the 11th, Saturn is going to be in own sign, Capricorn. nice and strong. But it's also a Saturn that is like spending money. So careful that you don't lose all your gains, through just spending, or don't spend all your money on friends. Be very, very aware. But Saturn's also aspect in the first house as well. So, it does get better with time, and the person just, it's a creative placement as well. And Saturn really makes you sort of think that, stop being so dreamy, because Pisces is quite dreamy, and really be aware that, have a realistic investment. So don't invest money if you don't have it, So, and from the investments can actually make these people feel very, you could have losses through this, because it's 12th house rule and that aspect in the 5th house. Just be very careful with any investment. Make sure you don't get yourself into debt by, through your education. Make sure you don't make investments that, or get really poor advice through, because for you guys, your 8th house is, it's a good sign. So this is like a sign that Saturn can help you with. But nonetheless, though, just be aware that, you are going to get you can get good research, you can get, good advice on taxes. You could possibly even get really good inheritance, but don't go and spend it all. Don't put yourself into debt and more expense, more issues. And then obviously through that, you could get like addiction issues, self-destruct, that kind of thing. So just be aware that you want to do the proper research. Don't get yourself tangled up with groups that are not going to be beneficial to you. And investment will not be a good thing for these people. Stocks and shares, crypto, things like that will not be good. So avoid those at all costs if you can. It's just going to give you stress, because it's aspect in Cancer. So it can get you stress, lots of stress. And, there could be some issues with, children as well, education, and be shy in romance and dating, at parties and groups and things. You could feel quite shy too, that kind of thing. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching.